CNN's media critic Brian Stelter has no problem calling out news coverage that he claims is biased. But watch what happened when the tables were turned on him by a college freshman.
They pushed the Russian collusion hoax. They pushed the Jussie Smollett hoax. They smeared Justice Kavanaugh as a rapist, and they also smeared Nick Sandmann as a white supremacist. And yes, they dismissed the Hunter Biden laptop affair as pure Russian disinformation. With mainstream corporate journalists becoming little more than apologists and cheerleaders for the regime, is it time to finally declare that the canon of journalistic ethics is dead or no longer operative? All the mistakes of the mainstream media, and CNN in particular, seem to magically all go in one direction. Are we expected to believe that this is all just some sort of random coincidence, or is there something else behind it?
It's too bad. It's time for lunch. I think you're describing a different channel than the one that I watch. But I understand that that is a popular right-wing narrative about CNN. To your question about sharing those kinds of connections and trust, we don't talk about it enough, though. We don't share that reality about how that happens. And with regards to the regime, I think you mean President Biden. The last time I spoke with a Biden aide, we yelled at each other.
Oh, it's time for lunch, Brian Stelter. I bet it is, Emily.
When is it not time for lunch in his world? Look, I think what was so disheartening about that is that for a college freshman who had a genuine question, a genuine articulate question that frankly most people in America have, the answer he got was deflective, defensive, unserious, and flat out wrong. And then the fact that Brian afterwards said, well, I'll come over and talk to you about it later. Why can't we hear in front of the mic? Why can't we hear in front of all of us your explanation, some type of explanation and addressing of that laundry list of disinformation, the hypocrisy peddled by the network, and then them sitting on there thinking that his individual defenses, oh, I yelled at a Biden administration person. I mean, that's just, unfortunately, I think a 0 on 10 answer. That was frankly disheartening, but not surprising.
Right. When he said, you know, when you screw up as a journalist, admit it, I don't hear a lot of admissions from CNN, Harris.
Look, the disinformation is more than a screw up, though. I mean, again, I use this word, the complicity between liberal media and the social tech giants is just unbelievable. I mean, it's harmful to free speech, actually. It's not good. And so you want to distance yourself from that if you made a mistake in a regard that had anything to do with that. Yeah. They haven't done that. Now, I think Jake Tapper, I've mentioned this before, he's done a good job of leaning in and covering the story as it's kind of unfolding now. But the important part of the story is going to be centered around that laptop. And if you denied that it had any, valuable existence, if you sang the tune of the White House, you're guilty, and not by association, by your own action. I don't see Brian Stelter doing that. And you know what? Not just to pick on him, maybe he had to go and figure out what exactly the execs wanted him to say. He doesn't come across as a free thinker in that sense, because otherwise you'd answer the question with something other than I'm hungry.
That's very true. Speaking of that, this ironically named disinformation forum, it was ironic indeed, named that, the moderators seem to have a tactic. Remember yesterday, by the way, the Hunter Biden story we covered where they were asked by another college freshman, hey, why didn't you cover the Hunter Biden laptop? And Atlantic reporter said it's not interesting. Well, in both cases, the moderators had a tactic. Let's watch.
Too bad. It's time for lunch.
You have 30 seconds.
No, I mean, there's a clock that says 30 seconds.
We're going to talk about more of this tomorrow in our first panel, so stand by. And I think we have run out of time.
I bet they run out of time, Steve.
Exactly, because they just can't stand the truth about who they are and how they operate being pointed out to them. By the way, that guy, the student there did such a great job. I mean, it's impossible, I think, to better that. But I just would point out that it's going on all the time. We can add to that list all the time. Just recently, we saw the narrative pushed about. Do you remember the missing 7 hours of Trump phone records that they were all pushing? Turned out to be total misinformation, to use their language. I think even Jake Tapper, Harris, was pushing that one until it was totally debunked. But I think the response is so interesting from Stelter and all the rest of them, and when you point it out, because it just exposes the total kind of smugness, the sanctimony, the self-righteousness, and the total lack of self-awareness. They genuinely believe that they're the ones standing up for truth and democracy and honest reporting, and everyone else is propaganda and state-run media and all the things. They're the state-run media. They're the ones who are Biden propagandists 24/7, and they just can't stand it when people point that out.
But while the moderators, they were dodging questions, the college freshmen, well, they were taking names. Watch.
Do you think the media acted inappropriately when they instantly dismissed Hunter Biden's laptop as Russian disinformation?
All the mistakes of the mainstream media, and CNN in particular, seem to magically all go in one direction. Are we expected to believe that this is all just some sort of random coincidence, or is there something else behind it?
Tommy, these freshmen beat the White House press corps.
Wow.
Listen, as someone who speaks a lot on college campuses, I just want to commend these individuals for speaking out. It is so hard to do on college campuses, in workplaces, in peer groups, to be unabashedly conservative or even just to question the narrative. So good for them for doing that. That's what we need more of. We often talk about the problems in the media and the narrative and the complicity of the media and all of this, and we complain about it. But the solution to it is students like that, people like that are willing to press, that are willing to lean in, and we need more of it. That is the solution to this. That is how we change it. So there's a silver lining to all of this. It's that maybe young people are finally getting fed up enough to change things for the better, and that's what we need in our media. So I hope those two are going into media. They will save it, and more like them will as well.
Harris, I'm incredibly impressed by those two young men. I mean, that was very well said.
So what you're saying is when you were press secretary in the White House, you didn't face a lot of the evenness in the questions.
Yes.
No, right?
Right, no.
And that's what we're talking about here. It's our job as journalists to be oppositional. At times, to be oppositional. You want to ask the questions that bring about the most facts, and it's not always comfortable to do that. It's hard.
Yeah.
So I appreciate learning more about what you faced, because I know that the job as press secretary, whether it's Jen Psaki, no matter who it is not easy, but you're made better when you're pressed.
Yes. And Emily, it reminds me of the Pentagon press corps. I mean, we watched them through Afghanistan. They were phenomenal. Our own Jennifer Griffin. I mean, all of them from all of the networks.
All of them.
Just really good questions.
Just such consistent, high caliber, quality, thoughtful questions that touch on data points just like that. And I think it's unfortunate that what has been normalized, in my opinion, especially with the White House press corps, is just these pandering softball questions.
Sycophants?
Or that have nothing to do with the purpose of whatever is the conference in that moment, the briefing, the top of mind on Americans' minds. Those questions, thoughtful, articulate, respectful. I wish we'd have more of that.
And